the internet has helped me a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Like the space network that I have right now, I met most of them on LinkedIn or Twitter. And I do not meet them by they falling on my profile and like, oh, there's Lily from Cameroon who wants to be a space systems engineer. No. When I started with this drive, right, to chase this childhood dream, I I went on LinkedIn. I think the very first things that I did was search aerospace engineers from Cameroon, space systems engineers from Cameroon. Like I had to know who from my country is doing this.
Doing that. Exactly.
So that I know exactly if it will be easy for me to get a mentor.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to today's episode. Today, I have with me a prolific lady. We call her the Space Baby because she's so much inspired and diving headfirst into space stuff. And she's very inspiring, and her journey is one which is worth talking about. Her name is Lily Asonfak, and I think there will be a lot of things to learn from our discussion with her today. Good morning, Lily, and welcome to today's episode.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you, especially talking about space, because there are two things right now that are very, very exciting in today's world. We have cryptocurrency and then we have space. And having the opportunity to talk to someone about one of these exciting topics is really exhilarating. Thank you for making it to today's episode after everything that has gone through. And I'm really looking forward to having a great conversation with you. But before we get started, I think it will be worth it if you could talk about yourself a bit so that the audience could know whom is talking, why they might be interested.
So I am Lily Asonfak, an electrical and electronics engineer, graduated in 2020 from the University of Buya. And I've been passionate about space for a very long time. Since when I was a child, I had questions, but those questions did not get answers. So, so when I got into engineering school, I got more exposure, especially to the internet, and I managed to learn more about this exciting sector, and I was lucky to have some amazing people who helped me in various capacities, right, to help realize the dream of becoming a part of the space sector. So that's a very brief introduction of myself, because I do not want to give so much information now and start spoiling the fun. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for that introduction. But I'm looking at it. Maybe we could dive a little bit into your background on space. Like coming from Cameroon, I don't think, maybe I'm not just so open to the community, but I don't think there's a lot of conversation around space in Cameroon, in Cameroonian schools and all of those. You've talked about an interest in space. How did you develop that interest in the first place, and why space?
Okay, let me start with the why space question.
Yeah.
So why space? It's because space is exciting, right? And space gives room for creativity, curiosity, and there's just this thing about, I feel like every child growing up at some point had a dream of maybe going to space one day. Although that wasn't mine. Instead, when I heard that someone went to space, I was like, but how? It wasn't there. I want to. It was, but how? Right?
Exactly.
So, So I asked those questions around, and there were so many superstitious answers that I got. The person was maybe sleeping night, and then what the person was captured by the moon.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think this is what I want to hear. So, coming from Cameroon and having the aspiration to work in the space sector has not been an easy one, honestly. But it is important to highlight that there are a few organizations like the Space Generation Advisory Council, which they have a chapter here in Cameroon. And it's basically a network of young professionals and students who are passionate about space. So it gives you the community, a global community, right, where you can network with people and learn more about space, especially for people who are coming from non-spacefaring nations, right? So even though I have, even though my degree is in electrical, at some point, I think it's on the second year, I revisited that dream of knowing more about space and contributing to this sector. So it was funny when most of my classmates, because I specialized in telecommunications engineering, and when most of my classmates, were applying to do their internship at MTN, Camtel, and all those ISPs that those telecom companies, I applied to do my internship at the airport. So most people do not understand, but I would say it's I already got drawn to the aerospace field. I was already drawn, and the most immediate company or industry that relates somehow to this big umbrella of aerospace, I had the aviation company. So I had to do my internship at ASECNA in Douala, which is an air traffic and security agency. So while there, I learned a lot about air traffic control and all that exciting stuff. And during my final year thesis, I was certain that I did not want to do the regular go to your supervisor, he gives you a project, you work on it, and then I wanted to start developing the capacity that is needed to be in the space sector. I wanted to start making those tiny steps towards the bigger dream. So at that time, I had a friend who knew that I loved space. So he came across this doctor who is a space systems engineer. He's Cameroonian, but he did his studies in South Africa. And so we got in touch. I spoke with him, told him about my dream, and then he accepted to help me out. So I had to do my final year thesis in nano satellite mission design. So it was a new one, right? Because it was a new one because yes, most of my classmates were doing hands-on projects and all of that, but I was that electrical engineer student who came with
some theory.
A project that seemed more, it's more theoretical.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to begin really early because I've come across people who tell me that, okay, Lily, how did you do it? Because I have this, maybe I'm passionate about data science, for example, but I'm doing electrical engineering. So I'm waiting till I graduate and then I would start doing data science fully. But for me, that was not going to be the option, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to start when I had the chance to not wait till the end and then start an entirely new chapter. But I was looking more of, yes, I'm already lucky enough to be in the engineering field. I'm already lucky enough to be doing telecommunications. So I think it gave me an upper hand, especially, and I'm very, very grateful to my supervisor from school, who gave me the opportunity and possibility to choose my project, because most supervisors will just give you you're to do this and all that. But when I proposed, he was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's see what that is about. So so honestly, coming from Cameroon, it has been difficult, but I've been very, very lucky to have people who were willing, or who are, because they are still helping me right now,
Exactly.
who are willing to make sure that I get to that goal, that goal that I'm hoping to achieve. So
yeah, there's a thing that you have said about. There are two things I've learned from your overview of your story, perhaps, which is starting early and being open about your dreams. Because I think it was because of being open about your dreams that your friend was able to link you up with a space engineer, and starting early, not waiting till, as you said, waiting till you graduate to actually start exploring this space domain. There's one thing that I was actually wondering while you were talking. Was there a peculiarity about your background that made it easier for you to get into space, or space is that thing which, when you're just passionate about it and you can put in the work, irrespective of the background that you have, you can actually make it, or you really need some basic kind of knowledge? Like maybe there are certain things like computer science where you need some background in mathematics and all of those, like.
Okay. So there is this unique thing about the space sector, right?
Yeah.
The more I get involved, the more it's more what's the word? Anyways, so there's this thing about the space sector. There's this thing about the space sector. It's very, very diverse. Like, you have people from every background who are part of the space sector. Yeah. We have space lawyers. We have people who focus on the economic part of space. So it's not mostly the engineering part. It's not mostly always about the geeky part of it, right? Yeah. So that's one thing that I've noticed about space, and it's great to see. To imagine that you do not necessarily have to have the STEM background to be integrated in this field. Yeah. So coming back to your question, yes, obviously I would say coming from the electrical engineering background made it easier to understand some of these concepts, especially when it came to nanosatellite mission design, because the bulk of what I did, so my specialty is telecommunications, which was more of the electronics part of it, right? And then those who did power systems engineering are the ones who are more on the electrical side of it. So that's why the degree is electrical and electronics engineering. Coming from the electronic side of it was relatively an advantage for me, because I already knew some of these concepts. And the funny thing is, the things that you learn about, or the things that you see in the space sector, they are not abstract. So they're basically the things that we do every day. Yeah. You just, when I say every day, not every day, yeah. The things that we learned, basic electronics, radio systems, and all of that. So yeah, it was an advantage for me, and it made it a little bit easier.
All right. Yeah, I think it makes it makes more sense now. And talking about having a whole ecosystem similar to that of, let me say, in quotes, Earth out there in space, where you have space lawyers, space doctors, space engineers, and all the rest. It's exciting. I didn't really actually make sense, but I hadn't thought about it that way. And I think really it makes the avenue for entry into space a little more broader and more accepting than I thought initially. Yeah, and that's exciting. And coming to you doing your thesis, your project, your end of year project, and doing it in how was it like being the only person doing the space stuff, the theoretical stuff? Do you have a point in time where you were having an imposter syndrome, like, okay, maybe I'm not doing the right thing, I'm supposed to be doing this and all the rest? How did you even cope with all of those challenges while you're doing that?
Okay, so the question of me not doing the right thing,
Yeah.
I think it didn't cross my mind because I don't know why, but my concern was mostly on whether people will understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because when I came back from internship from Asecna, the project that I worked on was on tracking aircrafts using satellite data, right?
Yeah.
Using satellites. And I could see in the eyes of my juries at that time that, oh my God, what is this girl talking about?
Exactly.
And, yeah. So that was my only concern. We don't understand. And, at some point, it's easier to relate with the jury when they understand what you're saying. But if they do not, it just seems like she could be saying anything, but given that we don't understand what she's saying, so that was my only concern, if I was going to be accepted or treated equally. Which is why when I was doing the final year thesis one, I actually had to design an entire space mission, which is already in orbit, right? But this time to analyze the usefulness of this mission for another domain. So basically, sorry, I just had some crazy. So basically, I had to design the mission and then visualize it, like show them how the satellite is going to turn its pointing and then focus on the region of interest, get the data, send it to the ground station and all of that. So when I was explaining it, this project wasn't the one where the jury would walk to your hardware and then interact with it and like, oh, cool stuff. So it's what I show them that they would have to test me on. And I noticed that my session was one of the ones that seemed like a lecture, because the jury was really, really focused. They were like, oh, really? Okay. And the questions that they were asking, you could tell that, wow, these are things that excites them as well.
Yeah, like they really want to know more about what you're talking about.
Exactly. I mean, they were asking me questions because they were like, so what is the satellite payload? What is the platform? I'm like, okay, yeah, it's this, it's that. So, even though it seemed impossible, like everyone is doing hardware and that person will come with a software looking project, it went well, and I'm actually very grateful for the opportunity that my supervisor gave me, because honestly, if he did not believe in me, so my supervisor from school, if he didn't believe in me, I'm sure he would have been like, no, please, you do this.
You must mold to the status quo, like stop thinking out of the box. and it happens where youths like you have dreams that are outside of the box, and they sometimes are constrained by the people who are meant to mentor them, because the people don't believe in them. And like you are saying, your fear was not being understood. And sometimes people have that fear and then they decide to go back to their shell and be like, okay, let me do what needs to be done and just get away with it. And then they don't tend to explore their potential as much as possible. As the previous question that I asked, like coming from Cameroon, that challenge of doing something that is not common, that is not normal. I think there's a lot to learn about it. And you've also talked about you doing your internship in the airport and doing projects that are related to tracking aircrafts using satellites, doing your internship. I think I see a lot of curation, like you had a plan somehow, because it seems as such. Did you really, had you sat down and like, okay, I want to do space and here is my trajectory, and irrespective, I might drift a bit, but here's what I have to do to get there. Did you sit down and do that? Or you had someone like a mentor, irrespective of your supervisor, that helped you out?
Okay, so I do not exactly sit down to plan how these things would go. Honestly, yeah. I think everything was just falling into place, because I know when I heard, because for me to go to the airport, I had to hear from someone or to know that there was a possibility of people interning there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I have a friend who works in civil aviation, and so I asked him, curiosity, I asked him if he knows of any company where I could do an internship at, and if I could if I could actually do an internship in the aviation sector. And he told me, well, there's a SECNA and then there's CCRR, I could go and check. So now the thing is, I left Boya, right?
Yeah.
With all of my documents. I went to Douala, going to look for a company that I've never been to. I didn't even exactly understand what they do. So I got to that place at the security, the gate, and then I told the guy, he was like, what are you doing here? I said, I came to ask more about the internship. I would like to apply. He was like, okay, go to that office. And the funny thing is, at SEGNA, they mostly take, because they have schools, right? They have their schools where they train their air traffic controllers, they train literally everyone who works at ASEGNA went to their ASEGNA school.
Yeah.
So even those for internship are mostly people from their school. So I was just going there to ask, is there any possibility for someone like me?
Exactly.
The man was like, so what do you do? And I introduced myself, and he was like, do you have your documents? I said yes, I gave him. And then he was like, when do you want to start? And I was like, oh, okay, was this easy? But honestly, it wasn't. It might seem easy, but the truth is, I think the lesson that I took from that is to not fear approaching people when you have something you want to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it brings us back to when you mentioned that it's important to be open about what you want to do.
What you want to do, yeah.
Because if I mention that to my friends, for example, the guy who linked me up to my friend who linked me up to the doctor, he wouldn't have, he would have just come across this guy, oh, he's a space systems engineer, amazing. And then he comes back to school and then we move on with our lives, right?
Exactly.
But because he knew that Lily always talks about space and all that, yes, even though there are times that I'll talk about it and people are like, you want to go to space, you want to go to space and what next?
Exactly.
And that's the fun. Most times when people hear about space, they just imagine space exploration and, astronauts going to the moon, to Mars, the ISS. But like I told you, as a child, when I had those questions about space, like when I heard someone went to the moon, I did not ask, how can I also go to the moon? I did not say I wanted to go to the moon. My question was how? Like, how was that made possible?
Exactly.
Yeah, which brings us to the technology part of it. So I've mostly been driven about space technology and doing space systems engineering. So yeah.
I think your story has a lot to say. Like, just from you getting your internship, there is this thing that they always say that if you don't ask, the default answer is a no. And if you ask and you are said no, at least you should have asked, and then you might know why you are actually refused the opportunity. Because really, just staying there and waiting for things to fall in place doesn't really work. They say you don't tumble onto success, but it is easier to tumble onto failure. You really need to work towards that success. I like your drive. Like, you've been pushing irrespective. And you made a very good point that people don't really take for granted, which is you really didn't have a plan. Everything was just falling into place. And in as much as I really agree with that statement, but I think it was because you were actually pushing forward with the dream. Like, everything that had to do with your dream, you are actually trying to make way for it. And one guy actually said that once you start putting your dreams first, even the universe connives to make sure that dream happens. And I've seen it in a couple of cases where people who are very much driven by their passion, driven by what they want to do, putting in that effort, things start to just fall in place. Like, some people talk about grace, some talk about luck, but it's just all about it. And really, it's really exciting. And I think people should learn from this, which is, don't just sit on your moat. If you have anything that you're interested about and you really want to get into it, do your best. Just be into it. Get people. And then you've been talking about, and I'm seeing there's a lot of role that the people around you have played. Like, this person heard you talk about this, they linked you up with this. Another person heard you talk about this, they linked you up with this. Like, is there really something you can tell about having a good circle? Like, just having a good circle around you to motivate you. Is there anything you can say about that from your own experience?
Okay, so I would say, firstly, it's important to say the right things to the right people,
exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you might have this amazing set of people around you, but if you do not maximize on the fact that people know people that you don't know, right? And the fact that whatever you tell them, like you talking to one person might mean that person meeting other people that are not within your circle. So yes, it's firstly very important for you to identify that thing that drives you, that thing that excites you, and then do not be quiet about it. Yeah, do not just sit and you wonder, but how?
Exactly. But how?
The
little,
yeah. I mean, wondering won't take you anywhere unless you act. And acting must not necessarily mean that you getting directly into the field and then trying to. Firstly, it begins with the people around you. They have to buy that vision. You have to be able to convince them why. Right?
Exactly.
You have to make them understand the why, and then that way, if, for example, if I know that there is Lily who talks about space, even if I don't know what exactly about space that she loves, and I come across someone who tells me that they work in the space industry, obviously the first person I'll think of is Lily.
Exactly.
I'll be like, oh, I know Lily who talks about space so much. I think she'll be glad to meet you see. But if I stay quiet about it, if I was telling the wrong people, by the wrong people, it's like if I was telling my siblings, right?
Yeah.
Like telling my brother, one day I'll be a space systems engineer. Do not joke with me. You see, when you want to oppress them, and you talking about the different things that excite them. So it's like, I love robotics. This one is on AI, IoT, and then you're like, yeah, I love space. Yeah, so I think the most important thing is not be quiet about what you love, and make sure you talk to the right people. you might not always know who is the right person. But yes, when you're not silent about it, you definitely follow the right people.
And talking about talking to the right people, I think there's a lot of avenue right now for us to talk about the things we are passionate about. You look at social media, you look at Twitter, you look at Instagram, just tweeting about the things that you're inspired by can actually open a lot of doors for you, because somebody falls onto your profile and it's like, this guy is actually very much interested in space. This guy is interested so much in software engineering. How far is he in his career? He checks your profile and he links you up. Like I, for one, for example, I've gotten opportunities because of the things I write about. I write a lot about programming and all of those things. And people come to you and they're like, okay, Collins, I've seen this thing that you have written. How can we do this together? How can we do that together? And really, I think the best way of actually, the best profile is what you talk about yourself, both physically and on the social media platforms. Talking about which, yeah, go on.
No, sorry. I just wanted to highlight on what he said. It's also important to know that in my journey, social media, the internet has helped me a lot. Yeah. Because most of the people, like the space network that I have right now, I met most of them on LinkedIn or Twitter. Okay. And I do not meet them by they falling on my profile and like, oh, there's Lily from Cameroon who wants to be a space systems engineer. No. When I started with this drive, right, to chase this childhood dream, I went on LinkedIn. I think the very first things that I did was search aerospace engineers from Cameroon, space systems engineers from Cameroon. Like I had to know who from my country is doing this.
Doing that. Exactly.
So that I know exactly if it will be easy for me to get a mentor. So the aim was, okay, I'll reach out to them. When I see their name, I'll reach out to them and then I'll talk to them. I would like to do this. And so it was not mostly by people falling on, things, because I don't really write a lot. I think I should consider talking more online.
Yeah.
Because I think I more offline and on my WhatsApp status. Maybe I should explore Twitter and LinkedIn more. Exactly. But I mostly did send connect requests to people that are working in this field or people who are studying the things that I want to study. Mm-hmm. And then when they accept, I would send them a very long message. Hi, I'm this person from this place. I want to do this thing. I would like this from you. And it was great. It was great. That way, you create awareness of yourself. Like exactly. People get to know that, okay, this person exists, right? And it was easier because when I finally attended the biggest space gathering that happens every year at ISA in Dubai in October, I met most of the people that are connected with, and it was easier for us to continue with the conversation. It's not like meetings. Yes, you don't even know where to begin. Like, who is this person? I don't even know what this person does. But within Africa, I can tell you that I know at least 3/4 of the young people who are working in the space sector or who are promoting space in their countries. Yeah. And I did not do this. I did not get to know them by sitting down and like saying, okay, maybe I'll one day work in this industry and I'll know these people. I actually went out there, search to know more about what's happening within the continent, right? Yeah. And then making sure I create this network of people that I can learn from. This network of people who can promote me, who can support me in the things that I want to do. Yeah.
And talking about,
I just wanted to talk about.
And talking about the internet, as you've just mentioned, like you see, you talked about writing a very long message when you go to connect to somebody. And that's one thing that most of us use to neglect a lot. You want to connect to somebody, and your first message is maybe a hi, a good morning. These people are actually, most of the people you want to connect with are literally very, very busy people. They want to know how they can help you and how you can help them in whatever thing that you're doing. So drafting out a message that details all of these things straight to the point, because they don't have time for chit chats per se. They just have time for things that actually will pique their interest. Like, okay, this is who you are. This is what I think I can gain from you, and this is what I think I can offer to you. That, in summary, can actually a lot help you get in contact with so many people. Many people get somebody actually asked me the other time, like, I'm trying to get connected to people, to friends online on LinkedIn, and it seems as if they are ghosting me or they are ignoring me. And I'm like, the first thing is, how do you actually message them? And they're like, I send a hi, good morning, I'm waiting for a reply, and they never get a reply. I'm like, what? I, for one, I won't even reply you, like, because I know.
I mean, people don't have. You go straight to the point.
You go straight to the point. And if they are interested, they will get back. And most of the times, when you go straight to the point, people are actually very, very interested in getting back to you. Talking about, you just talked about going to Dubai for a conference. I've seen you move from Dubai right down to South Africa and all the rest, conferences, living your best life. What have you learned, like the future of space? From those conferences, what is your experience and what have you learned about the future of space, especially for Africa? Like, what is the future of space for Africa, for the world, and everything in general?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, space and cryptocurrency are the most exciting things that are happening right now, right? Yeah. And we can see that there's a lot that is happening. And also, so when I was mentioning how diverse space is, there is also people who are bringing cryptocurrency into space. Wow. So it's a whole, broad, exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the space sector in Cameroon is really, I think I love my country so much. So, the space sector in Cameroon is really not yet active, right? Yeah. But it's great to see that there are some young people from this country who are going beyond all odds, right? To be a part of this, even though it's not yet existing like at the national level. Mm-hmm. But like I mentioned at the beginning, there are organizations and companies that are using satellite data, geospatial data, and there are organizations that are promoting space involvement for young people. So in Africa, the space industry is growing at an alarming rate. When I say I'm trying to say that it's really exciting to see.
Yeah.
Because in the past 2 years, so many countries have created their own space agencies.
Yeah.
We have space agencies in Kenya, Angola, South Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia. So many, not like all, but it's beginning to become a thing in Africa.
Exactly.
And it's exciting to see. It makes us see that there is a possibility, because most times you feel like, okay, yes, but wait, I have this dream of doing space stuff, right? It could be whatever. You want to be, maybe a space lawyer or a space engineer or whatever. But now the question is, how do you get to, once you go, maybe you go and study, or once you develop this capacity, how do you actually work directly in your country?
Yeah.
So in a country like Cameroon, you ask so many questions there, where is she going to work and stuff like that. And so Africa as a continent is really growing in the space sector. And last year, well, I'm already saying last year because I know this will go up in 2020.
22,
I'm sorry,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, I know this will go up in 2022. So last year, the African Union Commission announced the creation of an African Space Agency, which will be hosted in Egypt. So you see that steps like this are really exciting.
Exactly.
And to be a part of this growing sector, this isn't right, because you notice that you literally grow with it, and you understand a lot of things, because coming from a country or a continent where we are still developing different aspects of space, you get to learn everything, and then you choose where you want to focus. Exactly. So it's unlike growing in the Western world, for example, where, I mean, these are things that they talk about on probably a daily basis. So if someone knows that they want to work in the space sector, they know exactly what they want to do already. But the fact that most of us would have to, read through everything and then say, okay, I think this is what I want to do. It gives you room to have an understanding of the different sectors, because you're learning it when you're already an adult, like a young adult or whatever.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's unlike So it's unlike learning it when you're still like, it's just the daily. You grow up knowing that, okay, my neighbor works at NASA.
Yeah, exactly.
This other, my uncle, he's a space lawyer, but you don't know what exactly they do, right? But yes, so I think the young people in Africa we have this advantage, the fact that we have to have an understanding of everything before choosing what it is that we want to focus on. And most times we might end up doing all, right? Not necessarily all, but the fact that the capacity, the human capacity is limited, right? Because not so many young people are a part of the space sector yet, which means that you might end up finding yourself not just doing the engineering part of it, but also the strategy part of it. And but there is, this is why we are trying our best and pushing that more people become a part of this sector, because to ensure that there is sustainability, that there is continuity. So when the present actors are no longer there, or when they are old, who continues? Like, who is going to continue from where they left? Yeah,
exactly.
So that's why more young people getting involved in the space sector is something that we are really pushing for. And
and
so,
I wanted to ask, while you were talking, I was actually imagining, like, what in your own perspective or your own opinion is the most exciting thing to happen in space in this 2022? Let us anticipate a bit.
The most exciting thing to happen in space. So I think one thing that excites the world right now on the space part of things is space exploration. The fact that normal civilians have the chance, or might have the chance, to actually travel to space, right? So space tourism is a big thing now. And in the past year, right, we have noticed that we have seen many billionaires go into space.
Exactly.
But now, how do we open this up to normal people like you and I? So I think one of the most exciting things that should happen in 2022 and beyond is to be able to see regular people go to space, and then, because I believe it's going to it's going to be a very loud way to carry out outreach, right?
Exactly.
For example, okay, where I work with Space Hero, and so it's a movement to democratize space, and we are doing this through the world's first ever global casting show, so a reality TV show that will send the winner to the International Space Station for 10 days. So it means that people from wherever in the world, right, can apply for this, for the chance to win this ticket, right?
Exactly.
And now imagine that someone from Cameroon, Boya, some young guy or girl who has been driven about, like, who has learned about space for some time, maybe on BBC, CNN, maybe watching on the news that, oh, people go to space, and they're like, wow. And, you know, they apply, and by some grace or magic or luck, they win.
Yeah.
They will go to space, and the whole world is watching, right? This is going to speak a lot, especially to people, especially to young people from countries where space is not yet a thing. And it's going to open a world of possibilities, a world where we most people will believe that, yes, these are actually things that we can do. Yeah. So I think that would be one very, very exciting thing that would happen. But one of the other aspects of space that we have maybe we do not notice. Well, I mean, this is a big topic in the space industry right now, but people from outside the industry do not have so much information about it. That's space debris, right? Junk, space junk. This could be maybe old spacecraft, like satellites that, you know, exceeded their lifespan and then they are dead. But how do you bring this out to make sure that there's no rowdiness, no junk in space, right? So I think another exciting thing that I'd love to see is a mechanism to free space from all the junk that is already existing, to make sure there is space for more, very many more technologies that we plan on sending into orbit. Yeah, so that's another thing that I'm looking forward to, and I know a lot of people are carrying out research in this sector to see how to orbit all these space debris and all this junk.
And talking about exciting things that are happening in space. Of recent, I saw that there was a launch of a satellite that actually explores space in infrared instead of normal light and all the rest, so that you could be able to actually look right back to the Big Bang and all the rest. And it was just like, I was like, man, so actually exploring space is sometimes like time travel, where you're able to observe things that had happened billions of light years before, or even things that are far away and all the rest. And really, space is it's actually very, very exciting, the possibilities. While you are talking, you made mention of the fact that people are actually thinking about sustainability, how to sustain this space exploration thing, this space ecosystem, by trying to get many people into the sector, as many as possible. If I may ask, like, what are those things that we may be expecting to see from you people? Like, how are you people trying to get many people involved? Are there blogs? Are there information? Are there activities? Apart from the Space Hero, which you have mentioned, are there other activities that youths right now listening to this thing can go out and try out and apply for and get themselves started somehow into this?
Yeah, so firstly, there is the Space Hero Insider community. That is a community of people who are passionate about space, could be from whatever field in space, right? Not necessarily engineering backgrounds or whatever. So people who are passionate about space, and young professionals, and then we have experts. So we basically put all of these people together in this community and do webinars where we might bring an astronaut on board to talk about their experiences, and basically sharing stories. And like you said, when you share your story, it's easier for people to relate, unlike giving a roadmap like you have to do this and that. Like it feels more robotic, like you just have to follow a certain pattern. But when your story is shared, it's easier for people to pick up a few things from your experience.
Exactly.
And see how it relates with them. So there's a space here inside our community, and that people can apply to be part of. I'll share the link with you, so maybe you'll add it in the description box. And there is also the Space Generation Advisory Council, which is a network as well, a community of young professionals and students, either students who are from a non-space background but are trying to integrate into the space ecosystem, and young professionals who are already working in this sector. And SGSA actually organizes a lot of events, both online and on site, and also offers opportunities, sponsorship, and So I would say with movements like Space Hero, and with communities like SGSA, the hope is that more people would maximize the opportunities that are being given here, right? So they can see exactly how possible it is, how it's not really far-fetched to be a part of the space sector.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's really diverse, which means there are several portals of entry. You don't necessarily need to be from the STEM background. You could even be from the entertainment industry. How exciting is that? I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
To be an artist and be part of the space industry. Yeah. So that's it. And personally, coming from Cameroon and growing up as a young child who had questions about space, but people did not give me the answers that could have helped me at that time, because I mean, the people around me knew very little about it. So given that I've managed to navigate all the odds and all the challenges, one way that I think is important to give back is to educate children on space matters, right? To educate children on space, starting from the solar system, and then going maybe extending right up to projects, rocket science projects, CANSATs, working on electronic devices that are actually part of the space mission. So that's my own way of giving back. And in this year, 2022, I'm looking forward to doing a few outreach events on space education for children. Yeah, mostly for children, because I have noticed from my example that at that stage, they have, like, I don't know how to explain, but children have so much curiosity and possibilities to think. Like, they have this amazing mind that once they do not get the right orientation from this tender age, it's easy for them to lose it. So I'm looking for
I'm talking about the right orientation. I think what you're doing is actually very, very much important, because I feel like the best orientation is actually making the kids as informed as they can be, so that they can make decisions based on a lot of information. I don't want to orient my child to be an engineer, I want them to know enough about engineering to make the decision whether to join, whether to be an engineer or not. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing that you're trying to do, like getting them as much information about space, getting them to know about the challenges, the opportunities and the optimism around space, and them being able now to decide for themselves, this space is really exciting. Maybe I should try it out. And sometimes even just from conversing with them like that, they might even come to find out things not related necessarily directly to space, but things that are from what you have conversed with them that can actually lead them to make better decisions about their future and all the rest. And really, it's really an exciting thing that you're trying to do. And talking about the in quote meetups that you're trying to start, would they be online or physical, or what can we be anticipating from them?
So from the children's program, it's mostly going to be on site, where we visit schools and talk to these young people and get them to interact with some of these space things, if I'm permitted to say. Mm-hmm. And there's also going to be a community of young people in the country who want to be a part of the space industry but do not know exactly how to go about it. Yeah. So more of, I wouldn't say an association of future
space people.
Yeah. Because I'm very sure that there are many young boys and girls out here who could even not even young people. They might be older than me, but they have wondered how to become a part of this sector. Yeah, I know there are people in Cameroon who are studying things like astrophysics. Yeah. Like they are doing their. I know this guy who is doing his master's, I think in Chang, something cosmology and physics. So you can see that there are already people who are a part of the space sector, but they don't know how to maximize what they are doing. Exactly. So basically, going to be a community of all these like-minded people where we'll be able to see how to grow the presence of space in Cameroon and to create more awareness to get more young people on board.
That's interesting, and really you've made a very good point. Like I was talking to one of my cousins too. She's is it cartography, something of that, and she's actually interested in space as well. And I was like, how can we then get you started with this? I don't actually know how we could actually, and I think it's because of these avenues now that actually these people who are excited about this, who have already taken their initial steps to get into these fields, can actually maximize, as you said, maximize that field that they are getting into, which is very, very important. And we're looking forward to that. Maybe any information you have, you can just pass it across and we'll see how to share it as much as possible. And when you were talking, you made mention of challenges, few challenges that you face. Can you talk about a bit about the challenges that you have faced getting into all of these things? I know we have made mention of the little navigating, the uncertainties and the fears that you've had, but maybe along the way, there are some major challenges that you had that you were able to overcome or are still overcoming and you think are worth mentioning.
So, challenges. So I'd say one of the biggest or / main challenge that I am facing or have faced and is still facing is space education is not cheap, right?
Yeah.
And most times, yes, I know all of this. I know a few things about space. I learned how to design space missions with the help of my mentor, the doctor who is a space systems engineer. And it's obvious that to further it is the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes, to do maybe doing masters in space systems engineering. But I'll say the most challenging thing right now is laying hands on funding slash scholarship. But there are so many different scholarship schemes right out here and possibilities. And now the next question is, why do you not apply?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I honestly don't know. I don't know what to say why I don't apply. But I think now it comes to the fact that I'm trying to find the best place.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because there are so many schools out there. There are so many so many institutions that you could apply to do your masters in space things, and I'm trying to find the best one.
All right.
And one that suits me
as a person.
Yeah.
And
also make sure I learn on to make sure I do not waste my master's doing research on something that I do not enjoy. So space is really broad, and I am still trying to understand which aspect of space technology I would really love to focus on. Yeah. So like I told you, that's one beauty about coming from Africa, right? You have to learn everything and then you choose. So it's unlike just having I want to do this, which is the mentality of most of those who are from more privileged countries where space, it's a normal thing there. Yeah. So I think that's the only challenge I'm facing right now. I'm laying hands on what I really love to do. Yeah.
And
I want to miss.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Like I, for one, too, haven't done a master's because I'm almost on the same shoe with you. Like I'm trying to understand what I really want. Like, okay, yeah, I'm in the software engineering field, but it's so broad as well, and choose what really matters to me. Not necessarily again about software, because you can use software to do a lot of things, and the knowledge to do lots. And I'm trying to find that particular niche which excites me the most. And yeah, I can actually relate to you. And if you don't mind, what about your failure? Like, what is your greatest failure so far in all of these things? And if you could start all over, are there things you could have done differently?
Okay, greatest failure must definitely be the numerous rejection letters that I've gotten from the so many applications that I sent out. Yeah, and that's one thing that doing at the end of 2021, doing all of those journeys, it seemed like, oh wow, Lily,
everything is finally falling into place.
That's amazing. I think I'll also just be part of space so that I can travel and stuff.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I received so many rejection letters, and I think this is something that most of us go through, no matter the field. There are times that in the background we are doing things, but they are not working out. And the moment something works out, people just feel like, oh, it's
easy, just fell into their laps.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, that's one of the most challenging things I've faced. And with the greatest, most shocking and most painful I remember going through so about this master's thing, right? I remember going through I applied for a fellowship and I got interviewed. but I was not, selected. So they had to select 3 people. And yeah, but I think that it really made me feel bad.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that there is something positive and something extraordinary that happened from that failure. Because when I did not get selected, now the good part is, okay, I was shortlisted for the top 10, and I did the interviews, and they had to choose 3 people. And even though they met me and did not choose me, there is one professor who saw me and was really motivated, and he reached out to me. He told me, like, we didn't get you this time, but we think you're a really good candidate. And ever since then, he has been, I don't know the word to use. A mentor is underrated. Like, it's really, the word is really underrated him. He has, I'll say Godfather. Let me use the word Godfather. Because literally every opportunity that he comes across, he pushes it. Like, I'll just, any email that I get from him, know that it's something, hey Lily, apply for this. And the funny thing is, even when I'm like, these things, if I apply for it, will I even get it? But when he tells you, okay, write the abstract and let me have a look. And then he looks at it maybe 2-3 times, like he looks at the sentence back, you have to correct, and then all of that. You notice that you're learning out of it. And the what do I say? I don't know if funding/sponsorship that I got to attend the workshop in Dubai happened because of that professor, because he shared that link with me. And the funny thing is, this is a workshop that most people do not know about in the space sector. It's not so it happens just before the IAC, which is like the biggest space gathering that I told you about. And the workshop is organized by the UN in partnership with the International Astronautical Federation. And since it happens like 2 days before the IAC, what happens is that most people who come for the workshop end up attending the IAC. So the fact that I got funding to attend the workshop, they also gave me a ticket to attend IAC.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And honestly, attending IAC has been one of the major milestones in my journey so far. And if you look at it from all the failures and from having the greatest failure, which I define, going through the interviews and feeling so close and then not getting it, you feel like, this is not for me. But look at what happened later. I didn't get it. He reached out to me. We have been in communications. I've learned a lot from him. And he shared this with me. And I managed to go. And if I tell you what happened at INC, like, there are times that I sit and I think about it. I'm like, I don't know how to explain this, if not grace, honestly. Because it's the kind of grace that I do not understand why me. Because when there are times that you feel like yes, you're doing all these things and you're in this field where there's so much possibility for growth and opportunities, but it feels far. I don't know how to explain it. But okay, so what happened at ISC is at ISC I met someone, and somehow I managed to land 3 different invitations from the African Union to attend. So when you said I went to Dubai and then went to
South Africa,
actually before South Africa, I went to Ivory Coast, and then South Africa, and then Ivory Coast again. I'm back home. You see, and all of that happened from me attending IAC. At IAC, I got those 3 consecutive invitations to attend these different events, and it really opened my eyes, and it showed me a lot about the space sector, especially the possibilities that we have from the continent. Yeah. So that's it. That would be my greatest failure, which I would not really look at it as a failure, but it was it's that everything turns around for the good.
Exactly.
It's one of those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And talking about things you could have done differently, like if you were to start your journey afresh, knowing the things that you did, maybe you regret doing, or not necessarily regret doing, but the things that weren't your best approach at, what could those things be and how could you have done them differently?
Okay. I wouldn't change anything, honestly. I think I'll just let everything continue the way it's happening.
Exactly.
And the only one thing I would have done differently was probably I would have focused more, not focused. I would have not taken.
Okay.
Because I feel like, so there's this thing that happened to me before I got crazily in love with space. There is the involvement that I had with the tech community, right? Attending events, WTM, GDG, and all of DevC and stuff. Yeah, I know all these events where you get to learn. I think I would, if I knew if there's anything that would have changed, is I would have focused on one programming language, which is Python at that time.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I would have that involvement with the tech community to learn Python really good, because what I learned was JavaScript. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing I'll change.
All right.
Maximizing my exposure.
And why Python? Why Python in particular?
I think Python is very, 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 very nice.
All right.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that we have C programming and Python that most guys in the space industry use, especially when it comes to most of the space systems. Sorry. Yeah. So right. Yes.
All right. I think that makes sense. And even the growing, there's a lot of information to analyze when it comes to space, and then there's data analysis. There's also machine learning to teach some of these things, to actually just learn some of the information and explore. Because you look at something like machine learning, look at image recognition and all of those things. Python is really, really interesting and exciting for such things. So I get the point. We're almost at the end of our conversation, but there will be no space conversation without talking about aliens, right? Do you have a particular fascination about aliens, and what do you have? What is your own perspective about finding life outside of Earth and extraterrestrial bodies? Am I pronouncing it right? I think. Sorry.
Celestial, yes. So, aliens. That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay. And some watch movies a lot.
Exactly.
No, firstly, the fact that most of the space exploration that's happening now is trying to check for the possibility of life outside Earth. I think that's good. I think it's good, but Earth is our home, right? So yeah. I think if some people are moving to Mars, you guys can go. How chill here, you push everything. Yeah.
So but you just
yes, the existence of things. It could be real. It could not be real. But obviously, research has shown that there's a possibility that there are people somewhere, not necessarily people, but if you want to call them aliens, but life outside, yeah.
And actually, I think there are two things that scare humanity very much. Like, there's this thing about robots and artificial intelligence, and then there's a thing about aliens. Like, okay, these are the two things that can actually come and dominate and take over the earth and all the. Are you having the same idea? Or yeah, like the aliens will be some kind of friendly people if we encounter them.
So if we meet aliens, I think the best thing we should do is to make peace with them, because what's the aim of fighting?
Exactly.
Please, let's make peace. I don't know. I think they could be friendly, and they could have a lot of, technology that we could use. From the movies I watched, those guys seem really smart, and they have like legendary spacecraft and amazing places. So yeah, let's be friends instead.
Exactly. I think I also have almost a similar perspective with you, which is I think aliens they might be smarter than us, or we might be smarter than them, irrespective. It can be either ways. But there's a lot, there's a lot, just as we are curious about them, I think they might be curious about us. Not necessarily us being too scared of them as they are coming to dominate us or we are inferior species. Is that curiosity that can lead to a lot of collaboration and maybe learning new technologies from each other, and that could be exciting. But yeah. Anyways, I think we have come to an end of our conversation, and it has been an amazing one. There's a lot of things to talk about, just a whole lot of things that we could have talked about, but time wouldn't permit us. And maybe we'll have another episode to explore more about this thing. But really, I'm really, really appreciative about you taking out your time to come to talk to us and shed more light about space. I can leave here now and brag to my friends, like I know a little bit more than you about space right now because of the conversation I had with Lily, and it's really exciting. Thank you very much for the conversation, Lily. And
thank you so much.
Thank you guys for joining us in our conversation, and I hope you had learned a lot from our conversation. And if you have any questions for us, I'm sure Lily will always have the time to answer. Drop it in the comments and we'll see how to get the answers back to you. And see you in the next episode.